Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Tourism Town Hall. My name is James Jackson. I'm the president of Tourism Jasper. I'm glad to be able to host you all today. Just as a bit of housekeeping, I'll ask everyone to keep their microphones muted and their cameras turned off as it assists with the speed of the feed. It would be much appreciated. Today we're going to hear from Tourism Jasper's board chair, Doug Goss, followed by his worship, Mayor Richard Ireland, and then we're going to hear from Pam Clark on behalf of Superintendent Alan Fair with Parks Canada. I think the objective of today's discussion is to really help convey that Jasper is a unified destination in advance of opening next week. And so with that, I'll pass over to comments from Tourism Jasper's board chair, Doug Goss. Doug, over to you.
Well, thanks, James, and good morning, everyone. This has obviously been a very challenging time, not just for Jasper, but for the world and Canada and our province. Managing our way through this and trying to find what the new normal looks like has been a challenge for everyone and will continue to be a challenge for everyone. From Jasper's perspective and from Alberta's perspective, we know following the advice of public health officials that slowly but surely the province and our destination is going to open back up as best it can. And you'll hear later in the presentation, James will relate some of the statistics that, of course, we've been following. I know from some of the folks who like to visit us from nearer destinations like the city of Edmonton, for instance, you'll see if you're following the AHS website that the cases in Edmonton have been relatively minor. Of the 650 active cases of COVID in the province, there are only 53 of those in Edmonton. That's 5-3, of which only 6 people, that's 6, are in hospital. So, you know, I think what you're seeing and what I'm hearing is that people are anxious to find what this new normal looks like, which includes visiting some of their favorite places in the province, and that includes Jasper National Park. So, you know, in partnership with the municipality and Parks Canada, we are confident that now is the time to welcome regional visitors back to Jasper, and I say that regional visitors, and I'll stress that, and most importantly, in a safe and cautious manner. The health and safety of our residents and community remain our top priority as we move forward with reopening. We'll continue to monitor and react if necessary to any and all COVID-19 reports in our community. But now that these cases are declining and restrictions are lifting, certainly Tourism Jasper wants to see Albertans, as we call it, venture again this summer to Jasper and experience all we have to offer in a safe, responsible fashion. Tourism Jasper would like to see local businesses and residents work together to ensure continued safety in our community while ensuring the utmost of an enjoyable trip for our visitors, knowing that they, in confidence, are coming to a place where safety is paramount. It's more important than ever that we work together as one cohesive destination as we navigate the challenges of COVID-19. As you'll hear later, but the key messages that we're sending to our visitors are, we're first of all thanking them for delaying their visit to Jasper, as it's given us a chance to prepare for them visiting us. But we're now ready and confidently and safe and ready to say safely that you're welcome here at Jasper. We're asking all our visitors, of course, to adhere to all Alberta Health Services health directives, to be responsible, come prepared. But at the end of the day, we're telling our visitors, this is your national park and our community, help us keep both pristine and healthy. So those are the messages that we'll be delivering regionally, and I stress regionally because we're not going outside of any city or municipality that can't drive to our destination. But those are our messages, James, and I'll maybe turn it back to you. And I think Mayor Ireland has some comments.
Thanks very much, Doug. Appreciate the comments and you joining us today. With that, I will introduce His Worship, Mayor Richard Ireland, who will bring some comments on behalf of the municipality of Jasper. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, James, and thank you, Mr. Goss, for your remarks. And of course, thanks to Tourism Jasper for hosting this Tourism Town Hall, and indeed for its continuing contribution to leadership in the industry and in the community. And thanks also to Parks Canada for its similar contribution. Some of my remarks will echo what Doug has just said, but it's important to recognize that we truly are all in this together. And as Jasper prepares to launch its recovery campaign and to relaunch its Welcome to Visitors, I think it's important to reflect, at least briefly, on where we're at, how we got here, and how we now proceed. And certainly now we're at a crossroads, a pivot point. We started this journey unexpectedly and together, and we've shared this really painful path together. And now it's time to move forward purposefully, and of course, still together. And the municipality and council is extremely proud of the way our community has responded to this crisis. Even before the province imposed restrictions, many businesses took the initiative and closed their doors. Some, including many hotels, shut their doors even though they were designated as essential services. It's not been easy for anyone. It's not been easy for any business, but it was absolutely necessary. It was necessary for the health and safety of employees, of visitors, and of course of the community, and necessary also for the future of Jasper as a destination. And so without prompting or prodding, without knowing the duration or the outcome of their commitment, our community, and including significantly the commercial sector, acted together in a demonstration of the unified approach that Doug has mentioned. And that approach has been reflected also by our residents, by organizations, and by government. And although we've always shared jurisdiction here in Jasper, and we've shared goals and we've shared aspirations, I've never seen the level of collaboration, of mutual support and unity that has been so evident in the past many weeks. We have most assuredly been through this crisis together, and now it's time to emerge again together. From the outset, we committed to support the public health response to COVID-19. We committed ourselves to encouraging compliance with recommendations and directives issued by public health professionals. And now those professionals say that it is appropriate to begin welcoming visitors back to our community. And so now, through the hard work and persistent effort of those in our commercial sector, we're ready to do so safely and responsibly, just as we had promised. Parks Canada is ready to begin its gradual resumption of visitor services starting June 1st. It will be a process which unfolds over weeks, perhaps months, but the welcome returns, and it returns on June 1st, and that welcome spreads throughout the community. Jasper remains, as it has always been, the perfect destination for escape and for adventure. And of course, so many of our guests are now so deeply in need of the escape and the adventure that we offer. Businesses in town are open and ready to welcome guests with a variety of enhanced protocols to ensure the safety of everyone. And as Doug said, safety remains the watchword and the top priority. Safety for residents, workers, visitors, safety for the community. Together, we're all confident that we can safely welcome visitors back to our community. And together, We will also all continue to monitor, to assess, and to react as necessary. As has been the case from the outset, we will continue to follow the recommendations and directions of health professionals, and we encourage everyone to follow those recommendations and directions for hygiene, so hand washing, hand sanitizer, masks, and for physical distancing. If it's difficult to maintain a distance of 2 meters, wear a mask. We also encourage everyone considering a trip to Jasper to plan ahead and to know what to expect. Become familiar with restrictions, become familiar with what is open and what is not before you arrive. We're going to encourage people to bring their own COVID-19 kit with gloves, masks, hand sanitizer, to be prepared, to be safe, and to help keep Jasper safe. And the last thing I want to mention, above all, let's be kind. It has been a stressful time for everyone. Nerves are frayed. We must all learn to adapt to the new reality. And as much as it's exciting to relaunch, it will be challenging for us and for our guests. Our guests, particularly the regional guests, which Doug mentioned, have shown amazing empathy and patience, and they have shown profound respect to our request to postpone their visits until we were ready. And now it's time to invite them to venture again. So as we do that, as we invite them back to the community, let's reciprocate their patience and their respect. Together, let's welcome our guests back with kindness. Thanks, James.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. A lot of wisdom in those comments, so thank you very much. And with that, I would like to introduce Pam Clark, the Manager of Visitor Experience for Parks Canada, to bring some comments on behalf of the Superintendent of Jasper National Park and the Parks Canada Agency. Over to you, Pam.
Thanks, James, and thank you, James and Doug, for the invitation to the town hall today. I do also want to send regrets on the part of Superintendent Alan Fair. He very much wanted to be here today, but personal circumstances have prevented him from being here. So I will read through his remarks that were prepared for the town hall, and of course happily take any questions after all the presentations. When the National Park System was formed, one of the goals of government was rural economic development. That thinking is still important today, maybe more than ever before. The pandemic has created real challenges for all of us. However, it has also strengthened relationships between parks, the municipality, Tourism Jasper, and the business community, as we have all come together to move forward. I thank all of you for your help over the last couple of months and look forward to ensuring a safe and successful transition in the next couple of months. Jasper National Park is a very special place that belongs to all Canadians. Jasper's kindness is a key ingredient in the authentic mountain village feel that showcases our diverse and welcoming community. This is what sets Jasper apart. It truly does set us apart. As we move forward, we need to continue to be good to one another and our visitors. Those visitors will be fellow Canadians who share not only our love for the park, but also a connection with this special place. We recognize that nature is an important part of human well-being. Jasper locals have been able to enjoy many activities in the park over the past 2 months to assist in maintaining their physical and mental health. This will be extended to all Canadians. With that in mind, the park will begin a very structured and deliberate process of reestablishing services next week. Our messaging will emphasize the importance of safety. Safety of our staff, safety for visitors, safety of residents, and a safe reopening for our business community. We will be asking more from potential visitors. They will be reminded they are responsible for their own safety, and this safety includes precautions during COVID. They will be asked to bring things like masks, gloves, hand sanitizer when they come to Jasper. They will be asked to also make responsible decisions for themselves and the health of others when they are faced with a crowded parking lot or a popular destination. Physical distancing is a must. If we work together, we can mitigate the risk for everyone. Park operations will be different. More washrooms and roads will be available next week. We're very excited about this. Camping opportunities will be very focused this summer, and there will be more information to follow as we are preparing for a gradual reopening of some of our campgrounds too. Like what has been mentioned here and all of you, we will be promoting kindness towards our people in the midst of very uncertain times. We have put a great deal of thought and effort into the next few months. We will do our part to encourage responsible visitation to Jasper National Park. We will need to convince the silent majority within reasonable driving distance that it is safe to come here. These people are every bit as hesitant to leave their homes right now as local residents may be to have visitors in the community. It will be a balancing act with the need for flexibility from everyone and adaptability. The one constant right now is the unknown, and we will make adjustments constantly with safety as the paramount consideration. Thank you everyone for your time and your attendance today.
Okay, thank you very much, Pam. That was very informative. I should note that all of the speakers will be remaining on the line to provide answers to any questions that arise throughout the meeting. And so knowing that, I would encourage everyone to enter any questions they may have through the Q&A chat icon at the bottom of their screen. And we will do our best to answer as many questions as possible, time permitting, at the end of the presentation. So having said that, I'm glad to provide a quick overview of how we got here, the current situation, and some plans that Tourism Jasper have in place to help restart the visitor economy in Jasper. So before I get started, I just want to thank His Worship Mayor Ireland, Mr. Goss, and Ms. Clark again for joining us today. And with that, I will get things underway. So for those of you who don't know Tourism Jasper that well, our purpose is very simple. It's just to inspire people to visit Jasper. And we have a particularly ambitious vision of positioning Jasper as the premier mountain destination while being a global leader in destination marketing. Our mandate, however, is to drive visitation for the benefit of our shareholders, as we have a private membership style funding model. But having said that, I think it is more apparent than ever that our role within the community is to help facilitate and drive the visitor economy for the benefit of the entire community. And this is very important to not only me, but the entire board of Tourism Jasper. We really want to help reignite the visitor economy in Jasper. And regardless of your business affiliation with us or any other organization, right now, I think is the time for our entire destination to come together as one community, as a cohesive unit, like Doug said, to really convey solidarity and confidence to the visitor. Because for the first time, not only are we going to be competing with other destinations, not only in Alberta at first and throughout Canada second, but globally. But for the first time, we're going to be competing with fear. And it's very important that we convey a very organized, a very calm and pristine approach to visiting Jasper. We need to reinforce safety and everything that the mayor and Pam and Doug reinforced earlier. So I think if there's one thing that I can leave with you all today, it's that we need to come together more than ever. So quickly, I want to provide a little context as it relates to Tourism Jasper and how we operate. We've got a strategic plan, and within that strategic plan are four core objectives. And you'll realize after looking through our objectives that two of them are very much destination and community based. Although our mandate is to drive revenue for our shareholders and grow the destination's revenues as a whole, it's really important to us that we earn the community's trust and we advocate and market on all of your behalf while strengthening the destination's brand. Obviously, we want to operate with extreme professionalism and drive organizational excellence, but I think it's important to note that we exist in a large part for the benefit of the entire community. So as we rebuild our operational plans over the next few months and over the next year, these objectives will really remain unchanged, and we really want to prioritize this relationship with the community. So what does that rebuilding process look like? Well, the visitor economy has to be mutually beneficial for three different groups. And those three different groups are residents, visitors, and businesses all alike. And at the center of these interests is our brand, is Jasper. The reason why Jasper is so special is because of how these three groups work together. And throughout our opening, I really want to reinforce that this is extremely important to us, that we really want to prioritize and acknowledge everyone's interests. And I think by acknowledging everyone's interest, we can move forward hand in hand. So I'm going to provide a very quick overview of sort of the state of travel right now. And for those of you who've seen me speak over the last few months, some of this will sound familiar, but the majority of it is all new. So I'll just ask you to bear with me for the stuff that I might repeat. The current situation is obviously massively disruptive. We are dealing with loss of life, which can't be understated. But we're also dealing with a global quarantine, changes to our usual behavior. Businesses are challenged immensely with cash flow. Tourism Jasper is not immune to that. And obviously the demand has dropped off a cliff. But personally, the biggest challenge for me has been the unknowns. And so hopefully this discussion will help you all with whatever unknowns you might have. So as Doug alluded to, the Alberta situation is promising. Right now, there are 652 cases. That's as of this morning. 43 are in hospital, 4 are in ICU in the province. And as Doug mentioned, there's 53 active cases in Edmonton right now. The total number of active cases is only 8% of all cases within the province. And these are numbers, by the way, that come directly from the government of Alberta. The reason why I want to convey this to you is to show that there has been a concerted effort to cautiously open, and when it is appropriate to do so. And because of these numbers, because of the trend of these numbers, we believe that it is appropriate to do so. And we're working very closely with our partners at the municipality, with Parks Canada, and taking direction from Alberta Health Services as we proceed. It's been very important to us that we not actively market the destination while we're not prepared, as the mayor has so eloquently explained many times. Frankly, it's something that I never thought I would ever have to ask during my career, is someone not to come to Jasper. It's been quite the experience, but it's been extremely important. So globally, the situation is complex. It's an understatement. We expect to return to numbers somewhere in the range of what we were at in the early first quarter of 2020, not until mid to late 2021 at the absolute earliest. However, this is global GDP, and so it doesn't take into account communities like Jasper, who are disproportionately reliant on the visitor economy. And so as we drill down, you'll see that the visitor economy has been absolutely devastated by the COVID-19. In early March, we saw flight volumes drop off a cliff. This isn't a surprise to anyone, but reassuringly, towards the end of May now, those numbers are climbing, although marginally. In terms of hotel volumes by purchase, similarly fell off a cliff, but reassuringly, those numbers are starting to increase. And when we look at booking windows, families are starting to book vacations, which is, again, promising. The takeaway with this slide is the booking window. So 0 to 15 days for families, which means people are going to be making decisions within a shorter time period. And depending on the situation in any given jurisdiction, things will be very fluid, moving quickly. When we look at Canada, there are two scenarios: a baseline, peaking, or maybe tanking is a better term, in May, with GDP losses of somewhere in the range of 5 billion. And the worst case scenario, peaking in late August with GDP declining upwards of $7 billion. So this situation is going to hit Canada significantly hard. This isn't a surprise to any of you. We layer on top of that the current economic reality within the province, the price of oil, and the issue is compounded. So when we look at Jasper, our search index, for those of you who saw me present this, hit kind of a rock bottom at the end of March, which isn't surprising, 5-year low with regard to our search indexes. But like I said, promisingly, those indexes have returned to kind of a late January level, which is, again, promising. However, if you read between the lines on this slide, you'll notice that we should be significantly higher than that in terms of this year. The reason why I mentioned the search index is because it's a perfect indicator of future demand and a really great lead indicator for what potential visitor numbers we'll see. And so speaking of visitor numbers, we've been able to extrapolate a best guess. I jokingly shared this slide with my board last week and said, I don't think this is right, but I also don't think this is wrong. And so all the research that we're doing is always best guess. This situation is incredibly fluid, as you all know, but we need to make data-driven decisions now more than ever. And so utilizing this methodology, we've been able to forecast the number of visitors to be roughly a third. So you'll see the green line, which indicates the 2018-19 average that we've experienced over the last few years. The blue indicates Albertan visitors, orange is other Canadians, and you can barely see the US and you can't see the overseas market at all. And so this tells us that we will see roughly 1/3 of the total visitor volume. Now, this is on average, and again, this is not an exact science, so please take it with a grain of salt. When we look at visitor spend, however, the issue is compounded because usually the international visitor spends at a ratio of 2 to 1, if not more, as it relates to an Albertan visitor. And so when we look at spending, it's more like a quarter of the potential spend. Now, again, best guess, give me a little grain of salt on this one. I just want to help manage everybody's expectations. So as it relates to expectations, when we overlay historical visitation data with economic modeling, as well as a variety of other data, we sort of forecast that we will see on average an average occupancy of around 40% in 2020. Now, this is a best case scenario, this is a best guess. And if we have a conversation like this in a few months, I'm sure I will be wrong. But I just want to provide this information to all of you so that we understand the implications for all of our businesses and our community. If I'm even 10% off, this is still a significant impact to our local economy, and we need to work together moving forward to ensure that we can get up to 70+% like we were, where we were at the end of 2019 by 2020, hopefully, or 2022, hopefully. So if I can leave you with a few key takeaways with regards to our research, we're going to see significantly lower occupancy, and so we need to scale down our businesses accordingly. I think you all know that. I think you know that service will be unbelievably important because confidence will be fragile. We need to act with the utmost professionalism as it relates to our staff's hygiene, our protocols, and really just trying to reassure the visitor that they are safe in our community. As well, we want to convey to our working staff and our residents that we're behaving in a safe manner and that all protocols are being adhered to. So we expect there to be some pent-up demand, the whole cabin fever effect. We think there'll be a little bit of a spike in early summer and then a bit of a plateau. For now, we are only, as Doug mentioned, inviting our regional audience to attend, and for now that just means Albertans, but we believe there'll be families first escaping for the summer before the kids go back to school. And we believe that the booking windows will continue to be very, very short. Walk-ins will be significant, we believe. So as we move forward, or look forward, I should say, we've created a a visitor framework, a restarting framework that should help rebuild the visitor economy. It's grounded, again, with the mutually beneficial approach, that everything we do needs to be mutually beneficial for all parties, because at the convalescence of those three groups is where Jasper becomes so magical. So we expect recovery to be upwards of 24 months. There is a short-term response period, which we're currently in. It's why we're having discussions like we're having today. It's where the mitigation and the contraction of our businesses happened, and then our adjustment. I'll explain this in a little bit more detail in a second. But then we believe there'll be a significant market stabilization for the better part of a year. There are a lot of, I should say the visitor economy is very complex. It's a complex ecosystem. And there are still announcements being made, decisions being made globally that affect Jasper in many ways. And those won't really stabilize for upwards of a year. And then we expect a period that I'll use normalization in quotation, because I don't believe it'll be normal, but it will resemble some type of visitor economy that we've enjoyed over the last decade. And that will last upwards of 2 years. But I think the important part here to remember is that we need to reimagine the new normal. We need to take advantage of the situation to institute changes that we've been wanting to do, but perhaps have been too busy to do, or thought that was great, but we never thought they would be possible. This is the time to institute those kinds of changes. So as we look with a little bit shorter term lens, Tourism Jasper had a 120-day plan, and we're about halfway through that when this whole situation started on March 15th. Between March 15th and April 15th, it was the mitigation period. That's when we all had, unfortunately, to lay off staff. We had to contract our businesses. We had to work really hard to sort of pivot to the situation. And then we started to understand the situation a little bit more in the get ready phase. And now we're open to what I like to call the rebuilding phase, or the set phase. And this is where we start to reopen, but we understand the situation and we're starting to launch campaigns and ask the visitor to come back because we believe it's appropriate to do so. But I don't really believe that we'll gain our full stride until the middle of July, because then we'll know what protocols are working, what we need to tweak, perhaps what messages we need to convey in a different manner. But again, it's really important that we reimagine the new normal throughout this entire process. The next slide sort of explains this in a bit more detail. This is from Travel Alberta and their rebound strategy. And right now we are exiting their definition of the response phase, which I think is really important. There's no travel. But then we start to get ultra local travel happening, 1 to 2 hours, people starting to explore the city, outside of the city a little bit more. And then we'll enter the within Alberta phase. And that's where we'll arrive to on Monday. 1 to 5 hours, you'll see a lot of day trips, but you'll start to see overnight trips. And then as we expand into interprovincial, Canadian, and then finally overseas and international travel, that takes us right through till the middle to end of 2021. And so what I want you to take away from this slide is that this is a very fragmented and challenging process. And there are a lot of different variables that come into play. And it's important to know that throughout this process, we need to continue to be communicating really, really effectively. So knowing that, I thought it would be important to provide some resident sentiment. So there was research done by Destination Canada around resident sentiment. And so effectively, the question they asked respondents was, what is the comfort level of visitors coming to your community? And in Alberta, almost half of the respondents said people were comfortable if they were from other communities near me. And I think we can say that that's probably accurate for Jasper. It's still divisive though, but I think the numbers show, if you look at the top two, 41 and 47%, that the numbers are trending in the right direction. And we'll continue to monitor the resident sentiment. It's something that we find is really important that informs our overall strategy. So speaking of our strategy and speaking of our plan, I'd like to walk you through that, something we don't normally do with this level of transparency. Sorry, go back one slide here. So our restart campaign is called Venture Again. And it's obviously a play on our tagline of Venture Beyond. which we think will resonate with Alberta residents. But in building our strategy, we came up with some guiding principles that informed the campaign. Simple high-level things that we needed to acknowledge and be aware of. Active cases in Alberta were declining and are continuing to decline. Businesses are prepared and eager to open, but we also have to acknowledge the fiscal challenges that these businesses and individuals have been under. At the same time, provincial travel within Alberta is permitted, as per the Chief Medical Officer, and while unemployment in the community is at what I would suggest an all-time high. But the important thing is that we're prepared, and we've worked together and assembled the partners for consistent dialogue to ensure that we're prepared. And so I can confidently say that we've consulted more partners in the development of our campaign than we ever have before. With our tourism partners on the left, with our national partners, provincial, our regional partners with Edmonton and Banff Lake Louise, as well as access with our airport. We understand that this process will be long-term, and currently not many people are flying, but that will continue to be a very important part of what we do. And then on the right side of your screen, we have our local partners, and we're very humbled to be part of the Economic Recovery Task Force with these partners, where we discuss recovery and initiatives to help move things forward. As it relates to our campaign strategy, there's a few things that I want everybody to be aware of. Venture Again is a campaign based on responsible inspiration. Our audience is craving clarity and consistency of message. They want to know what's open, what's available without having to work too hard. They want to travel somewhere that's safe, calm, and pristine. They want to return to places and activities that are meaningful to them. And as you know, Jasper is so meaningful to Albertans, especially Edmontonians. They really just want to venture again. And so as we developed the campaign, we developed 3 different levels of language: confident, moderate, and cautious. And the reason why we developed these different levels of language was to be flexible and malleable to the situation. And so if we encounter that the situation changes over the next few days, weeks, months, we can adjust the message accordingly. And so the confident message is that, open is an understatement when it comes to Jasper. And we're not talking about the community being open for business. We're talking about the destination's landscape. When we talk with a bit more moderate tone, we speak to that Jasper is open for adventure, or open to adventure. And when we're being a bit more cautious, we're asking people perhaps to not come right now, but to plan on coming. So preparing for their adventure. As it relates to the campaign's tactics and where we're going to communicate, we have a 3-phased, fully integrated, predominantly digital campaign that will market for now only in Alberta. It has been extremely important to us that we align with Alberta Health Services and their directives, and it's something we take very seriously. And although some of our following resides outside of Alberta, we are only going to do paid activities within Alberta until it's appropriate to do so outside. And we'll follow proper health authorities' direction in developing those plans. But our campaign launches Monday. It will start with a variety of media pitches, mostly in Edmonton and Calgary, but in some smaller communities like Grand Prairie and Red Deer. We've already developed partnerships with a variety of media outlets and publishers, and we have secured buys across multiple networks online. We're using search engine marketing, content publishers and partnerships, third-party ad networks. We're going all out, something we've been able to do successfully for a number of years now. But social media will really be the core of the campaign. Multi-channel influencer-based partnerships across Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you name it. So you're probably wondering what it's going to look like. And so the campaign is very simple. It's just called Venture Again. And we're trying to speak to people's emotions throughout this campaign. People have been isolated, they've been anxious, and we want to remind them that Jasper is a fantastic place to explore and perhaps fill their cup again as they return to work over the next few months. This is just a few examples. The creative is still in the process of rolling out. As some of you will know, up until about 2 weeks ago, Tourism Jasper's team was significantly smaller than it is today, and it's still about half the size that it usually is. And so this campaign has come together extremely quickly, and it continues to be fluid. And as we test it and as we launch it, we'll continue to to tweak as necessary. And so if anyone has feedback, please feel free to provide it to me. But I want everybody to understand that these are just mock-ups. These are just examples for you to see today, and not necessarily indicative of what the actual campaign will look like in market. So in closing, I just want to remind everybody that we've assembled a great amount of information on our website. If you go to jasper.travel/coronavirus update, you can get an absolute ton of information for your business. We received a few comments and questions in advance of this, and some of them were asking about where we can find consistent guidelines for opening and reopening our businesses. And we've worked with our partners at the Chamber and at the Jasper Employment Center and Community Futures West Yellowhead and the municipality and parks to centralize all that information. So if you're looking for information, a great place to start is our website. And this is open to everyone, regardless of your affiliation with Jasper. It's not private whatsoever. So then in closing, I just wanted to remind everybody that Tourism Jasper is here to help. We've got a team, although not a full team at the moment, but we hope everybody will be back soon, that really are stewards of the destination and stewards of your product. And we really want to help this community come out of this really challenging situation in the best possible light. And so I'll just remind everybody that we're here for you and let us know what we can do. So before we take some questions, I also just want to thank our team. The team has really stepped up and behaved with unbelievable professionalism and tact throughout this entire situation, and resilience, frankly, as the entire community has. And so I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank them. So now I will open it up for questions. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please, I encourage you to write your questions in the group chat. Right now, we've got a few questions. So I'll start with perhaps one for Tourism Jasper. As a small business here in Jasper, how are Parks Canada, the municipality, and Tourism Jasper promoting a safe, friendly place to come and visit after June 1st? I really hope that this has been conveyed through this presentation, but really the message is reminding Albertans that we're thankful that they stayed away, or at least delayed their trip to Jasper, and asking them when they do feel comfortable to come, starting on Monday, that they do so prepared. And we are absolutely aligned in our messaging between three organizations. I think Parks Canada and the municipality have done a great job in advance of our discussion today to communicating the importance of the visitor staying away. But we believe now and are very comfortable with the fact that they should now come to Jasper and support our economy. Mr. Mayor, I think I have a question for you here. And the question is, will we have public washrooms available for our guests? Do you mind speaking to that?
I'm happy to address that to the extent that I am able. The washroom, the public washroom on Connaught is currently closed, a combination of reasons, but primarily health and safety considerations, both for the staff who are otherwise required to clean it, and of course for users of it. So it has been closed as a protocol with certainly council's involvement and staff and the ECC, the Emergency Coordination Center. We do appreciate what an important role that facility plays as we begin to welcome visitors back into the community. We had discussions with Parks Canada earlier this week about combining forces to see where we can best serve visitor needs and get something available. So it hasn't happened yet, but we're certainly cognizant of the role that that facility plays in welcoming guests to our community. So it's certainly under consideration, but I can't give you a definitive answer as to when.
Pam, do you mind chiming in from Parks perspective?
There we go. Yes. So we are, we have been in discussions with the municipality on their public washrooms. We're also reviewing the protocols, the hours, the staffing considerations that would enable us to reopen the washroom facilities across from the Visitor Information Center, even though there won't be in-person information in the first 2 phases of our reopening. But definitely recognize there has to be some type of service within the town.
Great, thank you. We've got another question here. Tourism Jasper just actually hosted its annual general meeting for our shareholders an hour ago. And during that meeting, I mentioned that right now is the time to leverage some of our historical weaknesses. And Rob's asking if I could elaborate on that. And so a part of the campaign that we've developed is to leverage some of our weaknesses that differentiate us from other destinations. That I believe, and I think you would all agree, that actually speak quite kindly to the current situation. Jasper is isolated. Jasper is a community that takes a while to get to. It's big. It's the largest national park in the Canadian Rockies. There's a lot of wide open spaces. And for some visitors, that's not ideal. But I think given this situation, it's an ace up our sleeve. And it's something that we've built into the campaign. The joke that I've used with our agency a few times is that, you know, I think we only have 2 elevators in Jasper. You're not going to get stuck in a high rise with having to deal with an elevator. You know, we have a lot of cabins, and we have a lot of hotels with exterior doors. These are all assets in our campaign, and something that we definitely want to leverage. I've got a question here from Joe for Parks Canada. What conversation, if any, has been held with Parks Canada to consider no gate or camping fees this summer? These measures would certainly have a little more money in the visitor's pocket, which could then help kickstart the economy. I think that's a great question, Joe. Pam, do you mind taking that one on?
Yeah, no, I don't mind at all. Well, that's a good question, Joe. And our fees that are collected at the gates and at campgrounds, they stay in the park, or they go towards maintaining the services that we provide in the campgrounds or within the park. So they're very important to how we operate and how we're funded to operate in the park. So with respect to eliminating those fees, that would be very difficult for us and very difficult for our operations, and it would impact that continued ability to provide excellent visitor services and facilities. For the time being, as we prepare the gates for safe collection of revenue, when we open on June 1, the gate entry points will serve an information role, but we do plan on implementing fees before the end of June, certainly.
Thanks, Pam. We received one question here that says, will there be a collective statement from all of the members on this call to provide a united front as to what the visitors should be expecting when they visit Jasper? I'll take that one on. Although we haven't had a what I would call a completely collective statement issued by each of the various organizations, we have each distributed communications in extreme alignment, I'll say. So Parks Canada issued their statements earlier this week. The mayor, I think, has done a fantastic job of helping convey the situation, not only to residents, but to media. I think the mayor was on CTV this morning. And Tourism Jasper will be conveying those messages starting on Monday through the media. And so although it doesn't arrive on one press release, each of our press releases and subsequent programming are saying the same thing. We really have focused on singing off the same song sheet. Okay, this is a timely question, as there was an announcement from Alberta Parks this week. Will Parks Canada be following the open to regional visitors message, or usable or open to all Canadians message? Pam, I hate to put you on the spot again.
That's okay. I was expecting the question, and it's a good one. And I'll provide some context around who we are as an agency. So we are a national agency. We provide services and facilities and programs to Canadians. These are very much Canadian places and special places for Canadians. And Jasper National Park is no less special, and in fact, probably more. So from would we not accept reservations from campers outside of the province? No, we will. Are we expecting that there'll be a lot of reservations from people outside of the province, even with your presentation, James, and the demographic we know about our campers? We're not expecting a lot. 60% of our campers are from Alberta that are Canadian. And what we're going to ask all of anybody who's traveling here, and the type of information that we have on the website, is we're going to ask them to be prepared, to bring their kit, to be prepared to be adaptable and change, but most importantly, they need to follow advice from their local health authority, whether that be municipal or provincial, as to whether or not they can travel to these places outside of their area. So they will need to check in with their health authority before they make plans to travel here.
That's great information. Thanks, Pam. I received one question around Tourism Jasper specifically, saying, will you be adding retailers to your website, or a link to the Chamber's list of links? And so I'll provide a bit of context just around Tourism Jasper and some news that actually happened this morning. Tourism Jasper has a shareholder-based model, and so our shareholders or members comprise our organization, and really our mandate is to drive visitation to Jasper for their benefit. And so our website and any content that we produce is usually exclusive to our shareholders, or is always exclusive to our shareholders, I should say. However, over the course of Tourism Jasper's existence over the last decade, we incorporated in 2009, we have not been able to really engage the retail community to the degree that we would like. And as I said earlier, that it's really important that we convey the totality of Jasper as one cohesive product, as one destination. And with the foresight from our board, they have decided to recommend to our shareholders, by way of an advisory resolution, of a program called the affiliate membership. And that program will be open exclusively to retailers. That we will be rolling it out over the next couple months. I want to preface the fact that we just got approval for this an hour ago, and so we need to kind of get organized, but we will definitely want to engage with retailers moving forward. We know that they're the backbone of the sort of sidewalk economy in Jasper, and a really large part of the vibe downtown, and really important to the visitor experience. And we want to be able to contribute to their success. That's all I can really share right now. The details are still coming together, but Susan, I just want you to know that we're pursuing this, and hopefully I'll be able to answer your question a bit more directly soon. So last question, Mr. Mayor, this one was bound to come up. Many businesses, including ourselves, are struggling at 50% capacity. Why haven't we seen faster movement on outdoor social distancing by town council? We need those patios and initiatives as much as Banff and Canmore do to survive. Even if we tried a pilot program on Connaught where there is little opposition, we need to know when this will happen. I know it's a timely conversation, and so Mr. Mayor, do you mind speaking to the social distancing in public spaces conversation?
Thanks, James, and thanks for the question. And yes, indeed, it is timely. And you, in anticipation that council would be required to deal on a timely basis with issues that might arise, we did change our own internal structure to have decision-making meetings weekly. At our last meeting, Tuesday of this week, administration was directed to prepare changes to our bylaw to allow for the extension of patio seating. So the patios in some cases are already open. Permits have been issued. We haven't yet moved into the streetscape or onto the parking lanes. That's a question that is certainly under consideration, but council, as I say, directed administration earlier this week to bring that back, and I expect it'll be before us again next Tuesday, so a day after the relaunch. And I appreciate that it is an important issue for a number of businesses, but if you've been watching, it's also a concern to a lot of other businesses, and they are of the view, and they know their businesses better than I do, but and so I defer to their opinion. And they think that the parking issue will negatively impact their businesses. So we have to balance those demands. We are moving forward. We have to potentially speak with Parks Canada as well, because it is still an issue of land use. But we're pretty comfortable that there is direction from council to move forward, and it's unfolding as quickly as we can make it unfold. And yes, other communities have responded perhaps more quickly. Perhaps they have different procedural requirements. But I think in fairness, we have consulted with the community, which always takes a little bit of time. And I credit the Jasper Park Chamber of Commerce in particular for taking the time and the effort to individually contact every business in the downtown core to see how they would be impacted by the proposal. And now we have those preliminary stats presented last week. We're going to get a full report and a final report on Tuesday. And I'm anticipating that council will very quickly be able to make a determination, and then we'll be able to get onto it so businesses can expand. You know, I appreciate that the 50% seating requirement makes restaurant use almost untenable, so they need the expansion, but we have to be cognizant of the impact that will have on other businesses as well. So that's where we're at, and again, I appreciate the question. We are moving quickly, and I anticipate we may have an answer on Tuesday.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. So unfortunately, we've run out of time, and I want to be respectful of everyone's busy schedules. But I just want to take this time to thank everyone that took the time. I think at one point we had 102 participants today, which is fantastic. And we really appreciate this engagement. And moving forward, it's really important to us at Tourism Jasper, but I think for the entire community to be transparent and to continually communicate with one another. So if I can leave you with one last thing, it would be to convey our appreciation for the entire destination and the immensely challenging situation this has been for everyone. So thank you. And we really are looking forward to working with all of you moving forward in a collaborative and cohesive manner, and really looking forward to reigniting the visitor economy in Jasper. So thank you to Tourism Jasper's Board Chair Doug Goss for joining us. Thank you to His Worship Mayor Richard Ireland. Thank you, Pam Clark from Parks Canada, for joining us. And please don't hesitate to get in touch. I left my email address in the chat box. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to ask. Thanks, everybody, and enjoy what I imagine will be a fantastic weekend. Thanks very much.